Welcome back to another edition of Between Two Fars. I'm Warnike Miller and I am joined today by Young Cho. She has been helping us understand what goes on inside the GAO after a bid protest has been filed. Now, she's got a unique vantage point because not only is she an attorney advisor, a senior attorney advisor at NASA headquarters, but she did her tour of duty inside the GAO and knows what she's talking about. So today, we're going to take a little look at that time period after the agency files its report. The writing attorney gets the agency report, and what we want to know is what's helpful to the writing attorney. What do you see in there that is helpful to understand the agency's position, and what are some of the things that you've seen agency attorneys do that you just wish they'd stop doing?
So this is going to sound like it's form over substance, but organization. I cannot stress enough that having an organized record just really helps. And so the one thing that I don't think folks think too much about, in part because we're rushing to get that agency report filed in 30 days, is that on the receiving end, when you have an agency report that has 100 files, and you may not have the time to zip it all, and you decide to upload all of it, well, someone is going to have to download all of those files somehow. So I think it goes a long way for an agency attorney to think about the organization of the record, and for the recipient, to make it easier for the recipient of that information, at least to get it together, right? So, again, when you compile your record, usually if you go chronologically, I think that's the easiest way to organize something. Having clear file names that match what's on your agency report index, which matches what's in your agency report itself. I think that is very helpful because, someone once told me a long time ago, as an agency attorney, in a bid protest, this is not about how creative you can be in trying to argue, trying to defend your case. This is, at the end of the day, administrative litigation, and your job is really to connect the dots for GAO to make sure they know where in the record to look, to see what it is that you did, because it's either documented or not documented. It was considered or not considered. It was either consistent with the criteria or so that's something, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but making sure your agency report does track, and has that consistency throughout is really, really helpful. Some little things also, to help. We are in the digital age. I don't know what we want to call ourselves anymore, but we have these massive documents, PDF documents, and you can point to a page number, but then you're going to have to read you may want to read everything, but you also may want to make it easier for your attorney to look for a word, because maybe they saw something in the protest, and while I'm pointing to a part of my evaluation report or a part of the proposal, maybe that attorney wants to look for a term in a different proposal or a different part of the evaluation report. So having the searchable PDFs, I think, is very helpful. And also, back to the page number, with Adobe Acrobat, it is nice that you may be able to get away with omitting page numbers because Adobe automatically numbers it for you. But, having the page number always helps. I think Bates numbers can go both ways, because it is incredibly helpful, yes, to have that consistent numbering, but you may not have that flexibility or that time or luxury to do it. So, if you are working a difficult protest and you kind of have to choose between, okay, do I focus so much on the record to get it to that perfect state that I can Bates number everything, or do I need to work on the agency report? I would spend my time on the agency report.
Okay.
Because, again, you do want to work on all of those arguments. You want all of those out very clearly, right? And if you run out of time, like I said, you do have the internal pagination, and if you read GAO decisions, they refer to that. They'll say sometimes,
Okay.
you know, the pagination, the citations to the record are those that you know, I guess track with what's in the Adobe Acrobat page numbers, or they are the page numbers that were in the record themselves, or they're the Bates numbers, right?
So
You
the
know,
GAO is kind of flexible on that.
they are pretty flexible
Good,
as
good.
long as you can find the information, right? Again, kind of think about what is my goal here? My goal is to get GAO to look at the page that I want them to look at
Right.
with the information to see the information that I want them to look at, right? So but if you're if you're again spending more time on that as opposed to responding to the protest allegations, then you you need to think about where your time might be better spent. So again, the organization, it sounds trivial, but I think it does matter. And acronyms, I know we love our acronyms here, and we know what those acronyms mean, but they really need to be spelled out, because yes, maybe it's in the solicitation document, maybe it's somewhere else, but if it's not there for the GAO to read, it's going to be hard for them to follow. And
So would a separate tab just listing the acronyms, or is it just the first time you use it, make sure you address it then?
Yep, the first time you use it, just make sure you address it then, so that it's in their minds.
Yes.
Just set it up so that it's always there for them. And just because it's referenced somewhere else doesn't mean that they're going to know it, because again, the GAO attorney has several cases from several other agencies going on at the same time. So that's something to think about. Technical terms and undefined terms, right? They're I know we're NASA, however, IT terms. There was once a time where DevSecOps. Now I think we see it more in IT procurements, and I think it's more commonly used.
Okay.
But you'll find some GAO cases that have footnotes explaining what DevSecOps means.
Okay.
And so if there's a term, a technical term, a term of art, there are things even within NASA that I think we take for granted because we assume everyone knows it. Explain it. Put it in a footnote and explain what it means. Because otherwise GAO will try to figure out what that is, and it may not be what we intended on using, but it helps.
Yes.
I will confess, I've maybe done for some NASA procurements, but on some other protests, I've been curious enough to try to go on YouTube and just see what something is. Just, again, it doesn't sway me one way or another, but, if it's something that I can see, that's more concrete, right? And just to get an idea, even locations, I've tried to look it up to say, oh, where is this at, right? Some restoration project. What are they doing, right? So giving the attorney context, right? A little more context always helps, because we're all human, right? We all want to know a little bit more. So providing that little extra explanation, I think always helps.
Thank you. This is just very useful insight to know that you don't want to set it up where you're pushing them towards Google. Go ahead and define the terms yourself. Go ahead and let them know what you mean and keep organized. I love what you said about help that writing attorney connect the dots so that the agency's position is clearly known. We really appreciate this insight, and I think we've got some more things we'd love to talk to you about on some other aspects. Would you mind coming back one more time and talking to us a little bit more?
Of course, Veronica. Anything for you.
Well, stay tuned and join us again for another edition of Between Two Fars.